2 out of the 3 fundamental mysteries about our place in the universe have already been resolved. The first is literally about our place in the universe. Many years ago, Copernicus told us that we were not at its center, that we were just a tiny dot suspended in the abyss. This is an image of the Earth taken from the probe Voyager 1 as it was leaving the solar system, from about 6 billion kilometers away. And all of human history, all of the history of life on Earth has taken place on that pale blue dot. The second mystery, Darwin then revealed that humans are just one branch or one twig of a beautifully rich and delicate evolutionary tree, and that much of the machinery of life is shared even with the lowliest of our fellow creatures. The third mystery is that of consciousness, our inner universe. Now, earlier this year, for the 3rd time in my life, I ceased to exist, as the propofol anesthetic flowed from the cannula in my wrist into my bloodstream and then into my brain. There was a falling apart, a blackness, an absence. And then I was back, drowsy and disoriented, but definitely there. And when you wake from a deep sleep, you might be confused what time it is, especially if you've been flying somewhere, but you'll know that some time has passed. There seems to be some basic continuity between your consciousness then and your consciousness now. But coming around from a general anesthetic, it could have been 5 minutes, it could have been 5 hours, it could have been 5 days or 5 years. I was simply not there, a premonition of the oblivion of death. And general anesthesia doesn't just work on your brain, it doesn't just work on your mind, it works on your consciousness. By altering the delicate electrochemical circuitry inside your head, the basic ground state of what it is to be is temporarily abolished. And in this process lies one of the greatest remaining mysteries in science and philosophy. How does consciousness happen? And why is life in the first person? There it is, going away and coming back. The modern incarnation of this problem is usually traced to Descartes, who in the 17th century distinguished between matter stuff, res extensa, the stuff that these desks are made of, that clothes are made of, but also that brains and bodies are made of, material stuff, and res cogitans, the stuff of thought, of feelings, the stuff of consciousness. And in making this distinction, he gave rise to the now infamous mind-body problem, and life has never been simple ever since. But Descartes actually generated even more mischief with his doctrine of the beast machine, which I'm going to mention now because it anticipates where I'm going to end up as the bell rings when I finish in an hour. Before Descartes, people commonly believed in something called the Great Chain of Being, with rocks and plants at one end, and other non-human animals a bit higher up, then humans, and then angels and gods at the very top. And this great scale of being was also a scale of moral virtue, so that humans had more moral virtues than animals, than plants, and then rocks, and so on. Now, Descartes, in making this division between mind and matter, argued that only humans had minds, and therefore moral status, while other animals didn't have minds. They were merely physiological machines or beast machines, morally equivalent to plants and to rocks. And in this view, the physiological mechanisms that give rise to the property of being alive were not relevant to the presence of mind or consciousness. And I'm going to propose, at the end of this talk, the opposite, that our conscious sense of self arises because of and not in spite of the fact that we too are beast machines. So to get there, let's return to the apparent mystery of consciousness. Now, as recently as 1989, which is quite a while ago, but not that long ago, Stuart Sutherland, who was founding professor of experimental psychology at my University of Sussex, had this to say: "Consciousness is a fascinating but elusive phenomenon. It is impossible to specify what it is, what it does, or why it evolved. Nothing worth reading has been written on it." It's quite a pessimistic point of view. And that may have been true then. I don't think it was true then, but in any case, things have changed a lot since. And more or less about the time that Sutherland made these remarks, we can see the rebirth of the study of consciousness within the neurosciences. And a good landmark is this paper by Francis Crick and Christoph Koch, published in 1990. And they start their paper by saying that it is remarkable that most of the work in cognitive sciences and the neurosciences makes no reference to consciousness or awareness at all. And then they go on to propose their own theory of what the neural correlates of consciousness are, what it is in the brain that is responsible for being conscious. And since then, over the last 25 years, there's been first a trickle and now a deluge of research on the brain basis of conscious experience. Some of this work is being carried out in my laboratory, the Sackler Centre for Consciousness Science, which was founded 6 years ago with Hugo Critchley, my co-director. And there are now even specialized academic journals, the Neuroscience of Consciousness, which I started last year with Oxford University Press. And this is a real change of the tide. When I started out more than 20 years ago, it was thought to be career suicide to want to study consciousness scientifically. And it may still be. We don't know yet. Let's see. So while the brain basis of consciousness is still a mystery, it is in some sense an accessible mystery. And the author Mark Haddon put this very nicely, I think. He said the raw material of consciousness is not on the other side of the universe. It didn't happen 14 billion years ago, and it's not squirreled away deep inside an atom. The raw material of consciousness is right here, inside your head. You can hold a brain in your hands. But the brain won't deliver its secrets very easily. What's extraordinary about the brain is not so much the number of neurons, though there are about 90 billion. It's not even the number of connections, though there are so many that if you counted one every second, it would take you about 3 million years to finish counting. What's truly extraordinary are the patterns of connectivity, which to a large extent are still not known, but within which are inscribed everything that makes you, you. The challenge is then this. At least the way I see it, how can the structure and dynamics of the brain, in connection with the body and the environment, account for the subjective phenomenological properties of consciousness? In considering things this way, we come up against what the philosopher David Chalmers has often called the hard problem of consciousness. And the idea is this: there is an easy problem. The easy problem is to understand how the combined operations of the brain and the body give rise to perception, to cognition, to thinking, to learning, to behavior, how the brain works, in other words. The hard problem is to understand why and how any of this should have anything to do with consciousness at all. Why aren't we just robots or philosophical zombies without any inner universe? Now, there's a tempting intuition here, which is that even if we solve the hard problem, even if we solve the easy problem, the hard problem would still remain as mysterious as it seems now. But this just seems wrong-headed to me. It may not be necessary to explain why consciousness exists at all in order to make progress in understanding its material basis. And this, for me, is the real problem of consciousness.
Hello, I'm Allison. I have read a lot about neuroscience since 2003 and is fond of it. In 2016, I discovered a great novel on neuroscience, the unique book I'd like to share with you on this channel here for 3 reasons. 1. It shows you an original approach to neuroscience that has been never done before. 2. It's quite well written, you're totally captivating. That's an amazing thriller. And 3. It is based on a serious and true study about electromagnetic harassment. I highly recommend you this book entitled Neuroscience, Crime and Corruption, White Mind Distortion for 2 main reasons. 1. It deals with neuroscience in a totally different way as usual. The innovative form used is a novel. And I'm pretty sure that you have never ever read a novel about neuroscience, but articles and studies. The second reason is the quality of the book. Well, it's pretty good written and the story is captivating. You can click on the link here to know more about the story, which is a thriller. What I can tell you is I couldn't help myself reading when I started. I was so in. The characters are incredibly amazing, and the story is so unbelievable. What an experience. So if you want to know more about this book, and I think I'm gonna make more videos like this, just click here. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and share this video. Bye.